Well, hello guys. How you doing tonight?
Doing great.
Fine. How are you?
Good, good. Well, we've got another video on tap. Guys, it thinks that basically the amount of feedback we've got, people want to know more detail on when to start the group and what are our tips and tricks and strategies there. I mean, we can fill a lot of time on this. I know we touched base on it. I think on our second video when we were at the bench at the Shamrock match back earlier this year in March. So, wanted to give people what they want and more information on starting the group. And, you go to a respective match, and we just came from St. Louis for the NBRSA Group Nationals. We've got 60 benches there. And, as we can all agree that many of these ranges either have trees on the sides of the range and or maybe a dirt berm that's surrounding the range. And, you've got basically the way I look at it, three different parts of the range you have to contend with. On the left side, you got a berm to your left. On the right side, you may have a berm to your right. In the middle of the range, you may see, wind that came over the berm and has now got a Venturi effect. And the middle of the range, a lot of times, can be a challenging most challenging part of the range to where you have the most switching conditions. So you got to be cognizant of what each part of that range as you work across, whether you're rotating benches or your respective bench draw, is going to give you on bench maybe 4 versus maybe 48 or 50, or maybe on bench 25 in the middle of the range. So there's a personality that wind pattern might have in those different parts of the range. And I've got my own thoughts on that, but I'm going to open it up. Harley, what do you look at in starting your group when we've got ranges with a berm or trees around the range and stuff? What
Uh,
kind of?
Number one, just ask some of the local shooters.
Mm-hmm,
If it's your first time to the range, is there a specific side, etc. I do agree with you. Time in and time out, the middle of the range is usually the worst place to be. It
mm-hmm,
really is. If you get over near the woods, such as in St. Louis, where you got that hollow down to the right-hand side. It's pretty honest, especially if you could get a nice, consistent flow, either red or green. The center of the range and like at St. Louis, at right around bench 20, if you're getting any kind of headwind, they all of a sudden it jumps out at 20 at bench 20, it goes all the way out to 600 yards. And
mm-hmm,
you get some funny stuff with headwinds. And uh, usually what I try to do is just get a feel for the range. Let's say you get a day or two of practice beforehand, and you start looking for patterns, trying to figure out where the dominant condition is. Is it up close to the bench? Is it out in the back end? As we shoot, the three of us shoot more or less as a group, and we share ideas. And they go, every once in a while, Jeff will come back and say, "Man, you just got to watch the back end of the range." So pay attention to what's going on the range when you go out there. You're watching the flags, but also pay attention to the mirage when you get a chance to look at the
mm-hmm,
through the scope, uh, and start timing. Uh, oh, here comes that red condition. Okay, one, two, and you just start counting. How long does it stay there? And
mm-hmm,
then, just as important, when that red leaves, that's what I want to shoot
mm-hmm,
today. And when does it come back? Does it come back in 1 minute or is it 5 minutes?
mm-hmm,
Heaven forbid if it only comes back once every 7 minutes, because once you see it, it's not there anymore. So you have to be ready to shoot. You have to
mm-hmm,
be ready to shoot. If the match is big enough and you could get up to the line before your relay starts, watch the guy in front of you shoot.
mm-hmm.
See what
Great
he's
point.
watching. You might have chosen, like I said, I chose the red condition today.
Mm-hmm,
And all of a sudden, I'm watching Jeff shoot or watching you, Jack, shoot. And all of a sudden, you go, man, these guys are picking on that little angled green.
mm-hmm.
Maybe I chose the wrong condition.
Right.
Maybe I chose the wrong. So, really, timing, watch what's going on, get some information about it. One of the worst things to do is practice, is sit down with practice. You got a Fowler and 3 rounds in front of you, and you jump on the very first condition and you go, oh, that didn't work.
Right.
Well, now you don't have enough rounds in your box to keep playing with it, or maybe you just chose the wrong condition. So,
Mhm.
watch, take some notes. This is all part when we get into this heavy tuning of rifles. Watching conditions will help you tune that rifle.
Right. Jeff, do you want to expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, I've kind of like Harley said, I do like to. I think maybe when you're like when you're practicing or something, maybe when they call a ceasefire to, maybe change targets or go put out some flags or something, go out on the range.
Yeah.
Go out on the range from where you're shooting. Take notice. Is there a big gap over here on the left in the trees or something? Is
Hmm.
there some wind going to come through there? Or maybe like Harley said, at St. Louis on the right hand side, there's that huge big gully, that comes up.
Or at fair
And,
chance.
just stuff like that.
Fair chance, yes.
Yeah, fair chance. Yeah, fair chance. Just keep your eyes open and maybe listen to what the other guys are saying. And like Harley said, come up there maybe a little early, and watch a couple of other guys shooting, and then
Mhm.
sit down there and maybe if the wind, if it's fair, kind of watch. I mean, not a real heavy wind or something. Watch and see if you can see some mirage.
Mhm.
See see if the shots and the flags are, agreeing with one another. Just
Right.
all this different stuff. Pick it up. Maybe the more you shoot, try to shoot, the flags on the front. Try to shoot the flags on the back. See what's more dominant,
Right.
and kind of go from there. And, hopefully, you can get some good ideas. Or like Harley made a good point. If the wind's blowing, shoot when it eases up. Maybe try to, shoot some a little bit, when it eases up and see what you do. Or, I like to shoot angle stuff, so
Hmm.
see if you can pick some of that up. And
Right.
maybe like Harley's saying, you can always pick up the wrong thing, take the orange, oh, this green's a little nicer, it's working a
Right.
little better. So,
Right.
just
Exactly.
things like that, just be aware of what's going on. So,
Right. I'll add a few points here. You know, so many times people, and it great. You want to. We all love to socialize. We haven't seen each other or other friends. Maybe we haven't seen since the fall. We're coming into the spring match, but you've got those conditions right in front of you, and you want to get your bench set up. You want to have your front rest marked on the bench, and we'll talk about that in another video of preparing your bench for success. But what I try to do is we all do, and what we should be doing is ascertain what is that dominant condition. And myself, I'll break down wind angles into 8 different angles. I'll look at a 12 o'clock headwind, 1:30 quartering headwind, 3 o'clock full value right to left. I'll look at a 4:30 quartering tailwind, 6 o'clock dead tailwind, 7:30 quartering tailwind, 9 o'clock full value crosswind, left or right, and then a 10:30 headwind. Those are really kind of the 8 angles that I pay attention to. If my rifle's in tune, I think we'll agree that those hour differences between say 10:30, 9:30, your tune should eat that up. But I will break down that wind into one of those 8 different angles, number one. Number two, you do want to see what is going to be the dominant condition and be cognizant of wind patterns. Early in the morning, a lot of times, especially later in the summer where your winds are definitely more benign, pay attention to what you see is, man, that left or right or that 10:30 headwind, maybe tailwind seem to reoccurring. So number one, we know that the headwinds are prevalent. And then which way? Do we see a 10:30, kind of a quartering headwind, with a respective green condition? Or is it a 130, kind of a little bit of a red condition coming out of the north there? And see where that plays. Is it more of a 1030 or a 130 headwind? And how long is that kind of staying? And again, while you're setting up your bench, it's so important to identify, wow, I've been sitting here. And again, we talked in our original video about having just an inexpensive kitchen timer for your bench. Once the match starts, especially that first match in the NBRSA, you've got a 10-minute match. The IBS, you've got a warm-up match. Use that time wisely to say, I've been sitting here for over 2 minutes or 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and I have not seen any condition that looks friendly to shoot. And the thing that I always pay attention to, and I think you guys may agree, a lot of time your angle or condition change will start either at your far flag at 100 yards, your 80-yard flag, or at 200, the 150, or conversely, maybe your 10 or 20-yard flag right up front. A lot of times that change will work from that far flag in, flag by flag, you'll start seeing everything line up. Or from your 20-yard flag, you may find that those quartering tailwinds, your first flag at 20 yards is the first indicator where it starts going to a different angle. And then your other flags will start falling in line. When I see that, I'll notice that there's a wind pattern, and a lot of times you can time that to where that flags are just about or all in sync. It's a good time to start. The other thing too is that if it has been windy, what I've found is that especially the little bit larger ranges, I'm going to look from where that wind is coming from. And I'm going to look for a flattening of the tails or the daisy wheels to start slowing. And you'll see an invisible flattening of that wind walk across the range. And particularly on a real windy day, I will try to wait and look to my left or to my right to see where that let up is and where it finally gets right to me. And at that let up point, I can shoot my first shot on the record target. For me, if I can get my first shot to hit close to my aim point, I know the only thing that can happen from this point forward is either the condition reverses, which you don't want to happen, but the only thing else is that the condition's going to start building and that wind is going to start increasing. So now the only thing I need to do is start holding into it. I've got my first shot close to my aim point, and now the wind's going to pick up. So now I can start holding into the wind. And holding into the wind is much more honest than if you're shooting the let up and trying to catch up to that let up. You're always kind of behind because the flags are not going to show you the real time wind. They're always going to be a little bit late. And then conversely, if I have to pick through it and I know it's going to be windy, boy, I want to try to get my first shot on target as quickly as I can, that if I am forced on a given day where it's been blowing, that I am not waiting down to the last minute, that I've got to put 4 shots or 3 shots on the record target to where now I've got to trade good quality holding for, geez, I've got to get these last 3 or 4 shots off in 30 seconds. And now I'm just worried about getting my shots off instead of making good quality holds. But I will kind of wait until I see maybe a flattening to where I know, okay, that condition, that soft condition is coming. And you'll see the top shooters, and you guys are right there in that group, that you will wait until that condition seems to be at the softest or is at the softest point before you start your group. And then if you are forced to stop, then you can wait once again for that condition to let up again to where you get your next shot on that target. But pay attention to your far or close flags. They'll be a lot of times your first indicator of maybe a reverse coming that's going to affect, the rest of your flags, certainly. And that's kind of, what I'm looking at for sure. I'm going to throw another curveball out, and that's one of the taglines of this video is berm dust. When we get into the summertime, it's a little bit drier. And we saw this too at Camillus at the IBS Nationals in New York. that we'll fire a shot or people start shooting once the match starts, especially when the flags are benign and there's really not anything to see. And maybe it's a little bit cooler and you're not seeing the mirage through the scope. That dust that kicks up in that berm, how that dust starts to either boil straight up or that berm dust starts to roll left or right is really a great tool that a lot of people are not aware of. Yes, it's in the back part of the range, but a lot of times that still has an effect, a material effect on moving that bullet. And a lot of people just don't pay attention to the berm dust, as we like to call it, and which way it might be swaying or moving. Because a lot of times it may disagree with your flags, but it is really a great wind indicator on how that dust is moving, whether it boils up or it starts being pulled left or right. And a lot of times you can start to clue or tune into it and know that it's a good condition when that berm dust starts to just gently move one way or another instead of maybe just boiling straight up. And
Yeah, that's an indicator that is so easily overlooked because as you said, it's past the range. It can't affect my bullet. I'm shooting
mm-hmm,
under that. But now
mm-hmm,
the same thing. It's an indicator, especially if I start to see I'm getting like a headwind from
mm-hmm,
say 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock. That's coming right at me.
mm-hmm,
That's gonna give me more information on when to start this thing. Because
right.
on a whole, I'm an early shooter. The
Mm-hmm,
first condition that I see that I think I could handle, I go. I
mm-hmm,
go. You've got to trust your equipment, as Jack alluded to. I don't want to get down to 30 seconds and have 3 shots to put on record.
right.
But one of the worst things is when you're not paying attention
Mm-hmm,
and you see, oh, geez, there's a nice looking green. Bang!
mm-hmm.
And you've got 1 shot on record, 5 minutes to go, and that green
It's long gone.
is long gone, and it's not. Don't get lulled into that.
It's not coming back.
It's not coming back. I
Uh,
don't get lulled into that. Uh,
I don't know who
when
you're talking about on that one.
when you get ready to start your group, you should, if you're doing your homework right,
Mhm,
and you've got good bench manners, good technique, and your stuff is set up right, you should be able to get at least 2 shots
mhm,
in that same condition
mhm.
without holding.
Right. Yep.
If things are you're really on top of your game, you'll be able to get 3. Now
Mhm,
I've got 3 shots in a good condition. All I got is 2 more shots to go. But
mhm,
you've got to be on your game. You got to be looking left. You got to be looking right. You got at this nationals. I was very fortunate. On my right, a member of the world team, Ed Adams, and on my left was Bob Scarborough. I don't know how many Hall of Fame points. So both of them are quality shooters, and I
mhm,
got a chance to watch them
mhm,
pick through conditions. Bob's usually a runner. Once he gets started, he's going. Ed is just the opposite. And I
mhm,
got a chance to look at the conditions. You could tell, you don't have to look over. You could tell that they're shooting and to see what they were looking for. And that gives you some idea. Am I looking at the wrong condition?
mhm.
Uh, and as I said, going back to that first and second shot, honestly should be the same hold. You've
Yeah.
got this thing. You've
Right.
got it. Now,
Yeah.
after shot 3, we're going to have to probably either slow down or start to, I don't want to say hold, but you're sort of have to lean into it a little bit
Mhm,
to make it
mhm.
work.
Right.
But because if the conditions are that soft,
Mhm,
there's no reason to rush. You just sit there and you just take 5 good, well-aimed shots, watch the mirage and stuff like that. But that's the big thing. Don't get lulled into that. Oh, there's a great condition. Bang.
right.
What
Exactly.
was I doing?
And let's just take a break and talk about well-aimed shots. A lot of times, a newer shooter is really spending way too much time to ascertain a fine aim point to try to minimize or to try to produce the smallest group possible when there's a lot more wind than that aiming error could be. I mean, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater while you're missing good condition
Yes.
by you're trying to get a finite exact hold. And you see it so many times with the newer shooter that the conditions there and they are just wasting an exorbitant amount of time trying to get that finite hold where they're really trying to shoot that very small group at 100, 200, maybe 300 yards instead of get it close, pull the trigger, get it close, pull the trigger. And now maybe you've got 5 shots and your neighbor's only got 3 or 4 because you were smart enough or skilled enough to get the aim point close, pull the trigger and stuff. So I think it's a relevant point that we need to make is that don't worry about, that finite hold. We're thinking the terms of an aggregate, not just I want to get a 0 or a small group, small group, small group. The top shooters in the world, which you guys are certainly included in that theme, you guys will agree that, boy, just don't waste time just over holding to a small aim point. Jeff, I'll turn that over to you for your thoughts.
Oh yeah, I mean it's no doubt we're shooting aggregates here. We're shooting aggregates. It's great if a small group can come around, but like you said, don't waste the time shooting. Trying to get this perfect exact hold. It. Get your shots off.
Right.
But it's all. And then on the other hand, sometimes I've come up to the bench, and the thing that you've been kind of looking for, trying to pay attention for, trying to see this is what I want to shoot in. You come up to the bench, you sit down, and they call commence fire, and you're sitting there and think, oh crap, there it is. That's what I've been looking for.
Right.
I let it roll. So
yeah, and you don't
I
want to
don't
get
know.
into I'm going to wait until the last 30 seconds just to
exactly,
prove
yeah.
that I can do it.
It's
And
hard. I mean, you make it real hard on yourself. I
yeah,
mean,
the
you're
earlier
trying
to
to,
yeah,
yeah,
the earlier
and
you can
then
get
you're
in
out
and out.
there trying to hold a ring and a half or 2 rings to get a shot going. It's like, oh my! And then you're fighting the clock too.
Yeah.
It's just like normally good things don't come to me when that happens. So
For sure, for sure.
right.
And a couple other points too is that you may shoot really well Saturday morning. You've had a right to left, red condition as we might call it, full value 3 o'clock. Your gun seems to be tuned for it, and maybe you put it down a 17, 18 ag, and you won the ag, or you're in the top 3, and you're feeling good about it. Funny things happen at lunchtime, and Tony Boyer used to tell us that beware of lunchtime because you'll go back up with that pet load that you were successful in the morning. You're anxious to shoot the heavy varmint 100, the afternoon ag or 200, and you sit down and that little 3 o'clock full value gentle crosswind that you shot so well. Now you sit down and now it's a 9 o'clock complete reverse in that left to right, or what we might call the green condition. And you're sitting there and you're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. All morning long, the dominant condition was at full value 3 o'clock. And now, an hour and a half now after lunch, you've come back for your first match of the heavy varmint 100 or 200. And that right to left is gone and you're waiting for it. And now you're down to 2 minutes. And now you've got to figure out where my bullet impact is going to be for that full value left to right 9 o'clock crosswind. And to throw a wrench in the gears, unless you have, and this is really a key point we want to share with our viewers, is that unless you have a very, very good barrel, you may probably need a little bit different tune for that left to right condition versus right to left. You did well in the morning with that right to left 3 o'clock condition. Your load was tuned where you're getting a nice round group, but now you're going to left to right 9 o'clock full value. Your bullet's moving with the twist of the barrel. It won't require as much powder or pressure to stabilize that bullet in that 9 o'clock crosswind. And now your gun doesn't shoot as good as it did with that full value right to left. You may need to go down in powder to get the gun to group in that different wind angle, which I know a lot of people don't want to hear. But if you've got a barrel that's just a fair barrel, it's an honest barrel, it's not giving you anything, that's a real thing that you may need to adjust your load for right to left to right, or conversely, headwinds. How many times do we hear people say, well, that vertical, that's just because I'm shooting that headwind or tailwind? No, your gun isn't really properly tuned. Do not accept that vertical component just because you're shooting the headwind or tailwind. You can tune a lot of that vertical out of that group by getting that tune right, which may require more powder in most cases where you really are seeing a lot of headwind or tailwind. That tune has got to do the work. You really can't make conditions or excuses for a bad group because of the wind. You just didn't have it tuned right. Jeff, I'll let you expand on that if you have any words there.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, everything you said is, it's right. And I kind of, just to add a little more, I kind of like that when you're practicing. And so, I like to, after you kind of figured out, what the conditions are doing, maybe what's the prevailing condition, I like to find out what kind of angle I can shoot at, or what kind of shoot, not necessarily what I'm going to shoot small. I want to find something that I'm not going to shoot big in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're shooting an ag, so,
Yep.
just don't shoot any big groups. And as sometimes the wind will, it'll go, change, 1 degree, 1 clock, and the bullet takes off. So,
Right.
you try to find something that won't move the bullet around as much.
Right.
Harley's just dying to say something there.
Yep.
Well, no, I agree with that. It just goes back to and this is a problem that I run into. I don't use my cider target enough.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as we had talked before on another video, Jack was saying, well, don't go up to the range with seven rounds in your box. You got a Fowler, you got a cider, you got 5 rounds, and you're stuck. When you're down on that cider, you're not always shooting the condition that's perfect. You're going to shoot the condition that's not going to get you into trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
All of a sudden,
Exactly. Yeah.
let's just say you've got 4 shots on record. You're down to a minute. Now it's time. It's time. You got to put a shot on record. I've already tested that full value that's there.
Mm-hmm.
I know, let's say I'm shooting 200 yards and I know it's a ring and a half of movement because I've checked this thing at 8 o'clock in the morning. I've checked it at 10. I check it throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
What is this? Now all of a sudden I'm down. It's crunch time. I have the confidence that I know because I'm every hour or two I'm checking that. I'm checking what's going to keep me in the game. I don't want to look up and see a bullet 2.5 rings away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm constantly checking. I'm not going to just shoot on the cider target, the perfect condition. Where should that be going? That should be going on the record,
Right.
the perfect condition. So
Well,
that's important. That's how you use your cider target. I see guys go, well, your 2 cider bullets didn't even touch. Well,
mm-hmm.
you're right. One of them was a Fowler. I
Right.
want to learn from it, but I want to make sure the zero of my gun. But that second cider, no, I'm shooting condition then.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shooting
Yeah, you're
condition
going to test what you're saying. If I understand you right, you're going to test maybe a soft condition and the harder blow,
and a hard condition.
and
So
that, and
there's my
then
window
right.
as I'm going to hold.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Now you can
There's no
bracket it.
reason to hold
Right.
2 rings if it's only going to move a ring.
Right. Yep.
And that's how I use the cider target.
Mm-hmm.
But going back with starting the group, that's why I like to get at least 2 or 3 minutes before I'm supposed to set up. I'm watching those flags. I don't want to. It's a switchy day, like you said, Jack. It's blowing around, and it's not going to be a runner's day where when you start you just shoot 5 shots and go with it. You're going to have to pick your way through it, uh, and you sit down. Everything's ready, ready on the right and ready on the left, and commence fire. And you see right in the middle of all that mess, the tails just drop, and it's perfect. Bang.
Mm-hmm.
No, you didn't time it. You
Hmm.
now you should never. That gets a lot of people into problems right there.
Right.
Yeah, if it's a windy day, and I'm talking windy days, probably anything over 5, 6 mile an hour starts. And
Hmm.
I know we shoot a lot heavier than that. But if it's 5, 6, 7, 8 mile an hour winds, and all of a sudden the tails drop, and it just is there, and then you shoot once, it's not coming back. It's
Right.
not coming back. It's there 5, 6 mile an hour is what we're going to be calling for. And
Hmm.
all of us check the weather.
Right.
We're the first thing in the morning before we ever load our ammo. What's
Hmm.
the weather going to do today? It's going to go up to the low 90s. Winds are going to top out at 5, 6, 7 mile an hour. Usually I find that whatever the weather says, it's usually a couple mile an hour heavier than that.
Hmm.
And so I'm paying attention to that. That's when I want to start the group, not in the easiest, softest lay down condition because it's not going to repeat. Something that I know that I can handle.
And
And
I think it bears mentioning that sometimes when you think that's a good condition because it's softer,
yeah,
conversely, it may not be good. There could be some puff to it that's moving that bullet around. A couple conditions that we want to advocate people to try. And how many times, guys, where it's blowing harder and you've shot your record group, maybe not a good group, and you're going to say, you know what, I'm just going to try this harder blow that all the tails, all the flags are
yes,
identical,
dots up.
and the
Yeah,
bullets keep going in a hole, and you're like, gosh, I just put 4 shots in a small one in a hard blow. Be cognizant and be agnostic that you may need to adapt your skill set or grow your skill set. Try that harder blow where those flags are all lined up. You may think as a new shooter, oh, that I don't want to try that, but you should embrace that, and because that may be the better condition than
absolutely.
something that's puffing back and forth and moving around. That harder blow where that wind's consistent against that bullet going down range may yield you your best group instead of that lighter group. Conversely, and we've seen this many times where you get a mishmash of color, red, green flags, the tails are basically just touching, and it doesn't look like a good condition.
Oh, my
But
bullets are in the air.
yeah,
Yes.
if even though it's red, green, if the tails aren't up and they're down, you really don't have wind to really deal with because there a lot of times are over, taken over from one condition to another. That mishmash or different color flags could yield you your best group, particularly when it's been windy and it lets up, but you're like, oh, I don't want to shoot because all the flags are not lined the same. Well, no, the bigger picture is there's very little wind and it'll yield you a much better group than where that condition's been blowing hard or in different angles to where you really don't know where to hold because the flags are not moving all in unison and stuff. So, Jeff, do you have anything that you want to add there?
No, that's I mean, you guys, like you said, the mishmash, it's kind of, you can't really, orange, green, all that. Like you said, it's kind of died down. It'll, give you a better, yield you a better group than it would, if you're trying to, fight through all this stuff. But it's, I don't know. It's just, you've got to, uh, when you go up the line, you've got to pay attention. Hopefully you've picked a condition, that you can handle. And maybe if you can't find one, you need to work and find one that you can, kind of handle. It's
Right.
going to yield you, like I said, and you guys both mentioned it before, find something that's, maybe it's not going to give you the smallest groups, but it's not going to give you big groups either.
Yeah, and
So,
much to be
it's
said to that.
something to seek right there.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, and
Because
avoiding the
I
big
mean, we are
groups is
shooting aggregates. And
yeah.
as we know, lots of times, we went to matches and you kind of look out there and you think, oh man, it's going to take a 17 ag or
Mhm.
18 ag.
Oh,
And
yes.
there's not an ag in the teams
Right.
in the whole
Yep.
match. I mean, so, something's going on and you need to find, what it is or what's going to hurt you the least.
Right.
So I mean, that's my feelings on it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't work.
But it comes from, just being open to trying different conditions. And I think we've all tried
Oh
this,
yeah.
where you've got a condition, say just hypothetically a full value right to left, or some angle right to left, and then you have maybe another condition that's left or right, or some component thereof. But you notice for your
Hmm.
respective tune, that load that you have, you're shooting siders and you're like, why is it the right to left doesn't seem to be moving the bullet left or right as much as the left or right condition? That bullet's going kind of all over. And a lot of times that's the truth, that
Right.
your particular tune that you have in that load you have for your cartridges, it may be working better for that right to left or left to
Working
right.
better
And
in
you
that
may say,
particular
wow,
condition.
yeah,
Right.
that green condition, if you will, left or right,
Yep.
just does not seem to be working very well. It seems to be moving the bullet a lot more than that right to left. So a lot of it is just doing your basic work, but you have to have enough rounds. Most of the time, everybody's got a 25 or 30 round loading block. Please, guys, don't take up 7 or 8 rounds. Have, an additional enough ciders loaded that if you do get in trouble, or that condition that you wanted or you were successful in the morning does not return, now you've got to get reacclimated to where that point of impact for that given angle of wind is going to move that bullet. So, yeah, you don't want to short yourself in bringing, enough ammunition to the line. Ciders are for free. You can always shoot a cider if you get confused and you're trying to understand cause and effect of wind. And a lot of times, as you guys will know, at St. Louis, we saw the back end of that range, that 80, 100, 150, so many times was causing the most problems in our group if we ignored or were getting too fixated on the 20, 40, 60-yard flag at 200 yards, when that's the 100 and 150. It had a lot of weight to where that the effect on was moving on that bullet.
Yes.
Mhm.
Mhm.
One thing I did notice, and this goes to the score shooters, and I don't know what it is about certain ranges and the angle of the sun and the direction that you're facing and the way the sun comes around. But I've noticed on some of the ranges, I noticed at St. Louis this time in particular, you get your gun zeroed first thing in the morning. It's ready to go. We've got this thing. And you shoot your first group, your second group, your third group, and all of a sudden you notice, especially at 200 yards, I like to hit my aim point when I'm aiming, and
Mhm.
then let the condition do what they may. And all of a sudden I started to notice I'm not hitting at the bottom of the mothball. I'm halfway up the mothball.
Mhm.
And in the next group, I'm three-quarters of the way up the mothball. Velocity hasn't changed. What it is that angle and the brightness of that target and that sun, that whole group came up. Score shooters run into this a lot. I used to shoot down at Thermont, Maryland, and I don't know if it was the angle it faced in the morning versus the afternoon sun, where you got a lot of sun on the target, but it has to be something with the brightness of that target that
Yeah.
I'll notice score shooting, you definitely got to pay attention to it. But even in our groups, when a bullet at 200 yards hits more than a ring from my where I expect it to be, oh, I got some decision time now.
Yeah.
I don't like that, but that's something to really pay attention to. Calling your shot and that shot, okay, that green condition in, coming in, that bullet should be down a little bit to the right. Okay, but if it's not, just pay attention to that angle of the sun
Yep.
during the course of the day.
Yeah, the high power shooters have a saying, lights up, sights up. As that brightness increases, you can sit behind your gun. You don't need a real gun, but your light varmint, heavy varmint, sport or gun, without touching it, while you're waiting for the match to start, you can see your crosshair raise in darker condition with cloud cover, or when it gets bright, the crosshair will go up or down. It'll go up in bright condition, it'll go down in darker condition. So you got to be cognizant, and you may have to change a click, at 100
Oh,
yards,
yes, as you
200
said,
yards
clicks out.
to
Yes,
get it to where you want.
right.
And that brings up a point of, we touched on an earlier video is, your aim point and where you want that to be. Um, and again, maybe we're all on the same page here that we really don't want our aim point to be far away from our impact point. You want to dial your scope to where in the calm, your aim point or your impact is either shooting your aim point, which Harley, does, I do as well, or you want it to be very close. You don't want to have your group print far away from your aim point, especially against the condition.
Oh
Because
my.
if you do have to hold where a wind picks up or a reverse, now you're doing more of a complex estimation under stress in the last minute or so of, well, I've got to hold an inch high into the left because my group is pulling, printing into the condition an inch down and to the right. And that inevitably is going to screw you up under stress when you're trying to hold for different reverses or pickup in the wind. So that's really important. The next thing I wanted to get from both Jeff and yourself, Harley, is that what are you guys willing to hold in order to finish your group? At what point do you say, wow, that's blowing too much or it's reversed? I'm going to stop and wait for my condition to come back. Jeff, do you want to give us some insight there on how
Yeah,
much?
I don't like to hold no more than a ring. I
Mhm.
mean, sometimes you have to, obviously, and then if you're sitting there waiting, waiting on the condition, you've shot a sighter, you're trying to worry this bullet in, it's, printing out two rings or something, and you keep waiting for the condition to come back. Well, now the time's going down. So now
Mhm.
you're down to a minute. So guess what? You're going to have to hold that ring and a half or two rings. And we've all done it. I
Mhm.
just I don't like to hold no more than a ring if I can keep from it.
Right.
So
Harley, what
Yeah,
would you?
I agree with the ring of movement. One thing I have learned, if let's say I've got my four shots up on record, everything goes crazy, it really picks up, and I know that I'm going to have to do some serious ciphering here to make sure that I'm down and the bullet's going to go up, let alone put the windage into it. So when I go down to my sighter, I do not hold in the middle, back to 6 o'clock on the mothball and see where it's going to go. Then I'm going to go up top. When I go down to the sighter, I'm going to hold like I was going to hit that group. If I
Mhm.
wanted that,
exactly. Yeah,
if I
that's a good
if,
point. Good point.
right, if I want that bullet to go at 9 o'clock on the mothball, when I go down to the sighter, that's the way I'm going to hold. I'm going to
Mhm.
hold
Right. You're
2.5 rings to make it hit 9 o'clock on the mothball. Because now when I go
right.
up to the record, I've got 30 seconds, but my confidence in here, I go, I got this. I know if I hold on the 9 ring at 3 o'clock, it's going to blow it 2.5, 3 rings right over to where I want it to be.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that confidence when you go up means a lot. It means
Right.
a lot. Not for a
Oh
long
yeah.
time, but it means it for
Yeah.
that 15, 20 seconds that you're there trying to pull that shot off.
Right. And
Right.
talk about that. I mean, it is an acquired skill to know what that wind is worth, of
Yes.
how much to hold. And Jeff, obviously, with winning the Super Shoot 4 times and certainly being one of the best shooters in the world, um, Harley and I have watched you in awe. When you started a group and the conditions reversed or picked up, you just take that second and hold and shoot the next shot. So you're constantly working on an information loop. And when we shoot well, we're all kind of in that groove, in that zone to where you
Right.
see that change and you instinctively hold without having to go back down to that sighter target, which the sighters are great as long as that condition's steady. If the condition's moving around, you're absolutely wasting a bullet where you go
Yep.
up top and that condition's just flip flopping. The sighter really does not do any justice or provide you any kind of value. The other thing
But
that we see a lot of newer shooters is that they are paying attention to that proverbial wind chart graph of the different angles and the point of impact. The one thing that a lot of these wind charts do not show, they show that angle, but when they get to a full value crosswind, They don't show that you also need to hold more because it is full value. That bullet is going to move probably an extra half or a full ring because it is full value. When you're shooting the angles and that wind picks up, it is not going to have the mitigating factor of push that full value will have. So always remember that you do need to hold even more during that full value crosswind at 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock. That hold has got to be more aggressive because that bullet, because of the full value of wind, will move it much more than an angle pickup or let up.
Because one thing, when you said when Jack says full value, understand what he's saying. It might be full value on one flag, might be full value on two flags.
Mm-hmm.
But when we get full value down, say, let's say we're shooting 100 yards and we're watching four flags at full value. Wow,
Mm-hmm.
you've really got to pay attention there,
Right.
because that bullet is not going to be like the wind chart says. That bullet, you could add another ring or two, and it
Right.
could only be 5 mile an hour. But if you've got 100 yards of 5 mile an hour full value crosswind,
Mm-hmm.
it's a long way to hold it out there. And 200 yards, it's not just twice as far, it's four times.
Yeah,
It's
it's
nothing to
all,
move three or
yeah,
four rings.
Right.
it's all, yeah,
You know,
extrapolated out.
yeah.
So,
Harley brought up a good point earlier, and I meant to mention that it's really something. Always hold on your siders when you kind of get in that little trouble, trying to figure out, hold off your original aiming point, hold the aiming point that you're anticipating hitting the group. So that way, if you haven't actually wasted a shot, that way, okay, it was a little too far. So don't hold as much. And you've got it right there. It's quicker. That's a very good point right there.
mhm.
Yeah, because if you use the cider that way, don't go waiting 30, 35 seconds after you go back up.
Yeah.
Because when you shoot that
Yeah,
cider,
right.
you move up and you fire that gun. I mean, don't. This is not the time to take the perfect aim, as Jack was talking about before. Oh, I'm not quite here or there. We're talking movement of a ring and a half, two rings, two and a half rings.
Hmm.
I mean, that's a
Right.
long way to start holding. So if you hit it with that cider, within 5 seconds, 7 seconds, you should have fired your record shot.
Mm-hmm.
And really, a great way to build the skill is everybody thinks of group where, a lot of times we get, oh, you heard Joe Jones just shot, a small two at 200 yards. God, I got to shoot small. And it's easy to get psyched out or trapped in thinking that you have to shoot smaller than what that condition will really allow for. But um, it's so important. You got your first shot on record. You see it pick up a little bit. Don't go to the cider to put a shot on the cider that would have went in your group. Take your estimate, say, you know what, it picked up, and now you're good. It's a skill building thing that you're going to learn. I'm going to hold a bullet more because I see it pick up. Pull the trigger. Chances are your gut estimate that you saw it pick up with more condition, you're going to have now two shots right on top of each other at 100 or 200 yards. And now I've got the group started. Now I have an information loop of where you see it let up or pick up, maybe the slight angle changed, and you will become skilled on knowing where to hold based upon your last shot. And they've said, and years ago, Fred Hazakuster would tell me your last shot on record is your best cider. And what he means is that you
Oh
shoot off
yeah,
of that.
exactly.
You see cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I shot and the bullet moved a little bit here, and now that condition is picking up or it's letting off. What is the appropriate hold correction that I have to make to continue it? And the more you can learn to just trust your gut to, boy, it's picked up even more. It's picked up even more that I want to try to finish the group. Now, there is that falling off the edge to where you're like overholding instead of maybe waiting for that condition to come back around or to subside. Again, to your guy's point, a lot of people don't want to hold outside of that bullseye or mothball, as we call it, to finish a group because you don't want to ruin the aggregate. Because if that bullet goes where you're holding and you're maybe two or three bullets out or a ring, when the conditions of the day were such that, if you could have just waited till that condition returned or subsided, now you don't have a problem where you've got a shot at 100 yards. That's a big three because you were trying to be cute and finish the group. There is a tipping point of
Yeah.
when you say, all right, I'm going to stop and wait for the condition, because the risk of desire of finishing that group when you start, and maybe your skill set won't allow it, waiting for a lighter condition to where you're not holding as far is more important there. And what do you guys have to say on that?
I agree with you. I'd like to make one point here. Uh, as you progress and you start understanding the tune of the rifle and your equipment, and what starts to happen is most guys spend too much time tuning their gun.
Mhm.
All right, after a little bit, you should be able to go out and tune on the fly as you're doing this. So you should be practicing more and tuning less and picking up. You go, that's moving a little bit too far. I'm going to go up a little bit in powder.
Mhm.
And you should know you'll be able to balance this thing out when you should change your seating depth, when you should go up, when you should come down, what time of day it is. But one of the best practices, I answered one of the questions from one of our videos. Somebody asked the question about practice and this and that. This is the way that I practice. I
Mhm.
give myself the first group, first one, say first 10 shots of the day.
Mhm.
That at that point, I have my records. I'm looking at my notes on my barrel, and I know basically what my seating depth is, and I get my powder range. I give myself 10 shots, then I'm done. My gun
Mhm.
is tuned. Let's dance. So
Mhm.
what I do is I load up 11 rounds,
Mhm.
and I go down to the bench, get myself all set up. I fire my fouling shot.
Mhm.
So now I'm ready to put shots on record. And I'll pick a number between 0 and 60. And let's just say it's 35. And what I'll do is I'll hit my timer.
Mhm.
And you've got your win chart here. So you're learning all of this. And at 35 seconds after every minute, I'm going to fire a shot.
Mhm.
And I'm going to sit there. Okay, in the first 35 minutes, the first 35 thing, it was all green and just blew right over there. Fired, got a shot on record. I'm going to wait to 2 minutes and 35 seconds. It goes all the way around the clock, comes back at 2 minutes and 35 seconds. I have to fire another shot. I don't care what the conditions are
Mhm.
in my mind, okay, it's more red. I can't hold. It's not going to. I'm going to have to hold over. Oh, now it's coming around a headwind. 235. I've got to fire a shot. I'm trying to shoot the smallest 10-shot group that I
Mhm.
can,
Okay.
and I'm learning wind.
Mhm.
I'm learning the tune of the rifle. I'm learning to hold, all in the same exercise.
Mhm.
So in 10 minutes, 10:35, all the way to 10:35. Now I've got a group up there.
Mhm.
And hopefully it's a terrible looking group. But you got to make notes. You got a minute to sit there and make a note. Okay, that green's really moving the bullet. Be careful
Mhm.
if you're going to hold green, you're going to have to add another bullet of hold.
Mhm.
But that to me, right, that one practice exercise works on my tuning, works on my wind reading, works on my confidence building.
Right.
But that's the exercise right there.
Yeah, I did something a little different when I started, and sometimes, even now, um, during practice, shoot one shot in a full value, red condition, right to left, and wait for left or right green to come, and figure out where you need to hold, maybe left and high above that bullet hole to get that second shot to hit it. And if the day will allow, where the condition switching back and forth, that will really quickly build your skill set of, okay, this is a different angle. Oh, it's full value. I need to hold an extra bullet. And it's neat when you're start able to shoot 5-shot groups alternating, shooting different conditions. And it really will give you confidence that if you get stuck where the wind's changing around, you'll have confidence to know where to hold and stuff. So I think that's really an important part. Jeff, did you want to make a point?
No, I was just listening. Harley makes that's a good point up there. I'm going to play that game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I may have done that, but I forgot about it.
You've done it
Sit
all,
down
Jeff. You've
there,
done
take
it
a
all.
10 or 11 shots and shoot one every 30 seconds.
Or
But you're
30 seconds.
holding, yeah, you're holding for what you think it's going to do. And you're going to see real quick what's going on the range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
And
pretty,
skills.
if
yeah.
you could get a shooting partner to shoot with you,
Oh,
uh,
yeah. Then you really know.
you take
Yeah,
turns hitting their bullet.
right.
So
Right.
wherever he puts a bullet on target,
Yeah.
you have to hit that bullet hole
Mm-hmm.
Right.
because
Right.
you
Yeah.
don't know where he was aiming. You just know that there's a bullet hole all the way up at the upper right-hand corner of the record box, or
Mm-hmm.
right in the middle of the mothball, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But practice, and learn how to tune on the fly
Right.
will give you such a skill set, so much faster, so
Yeah,
much
avoiding to go back to the sighter. The top shooters just have the skill and the confidence to know where to hold instead of going to the sighter, shooting a shot that probably would have went in the group because they didn't trust their, instinct or what they were seeing. They wasted that shot that would have went in that group, and they go up top. Now that condition's morphing into something different or
right.
reversing. And the other thing too is that when you shoot a sighter shot, you say, "Oh, here's a 430 tailwind," and that shot on your sighter hits say 730 on the mothball, 8 o'clock in that 430 quartering tailwind. Okay, in that same condition, you go up to the record, your first shot, instead of hitting 730 on the mothball or on that bullseye ring, it's now out towards the 9 ring. Instead of going down to the sighter to double test or test it, quickly compare your first shot and know that, you know what, in this condition, it should hit 730 on the mothball, if you will, or on the bullseye. And if it doesn't, trust yourself and chase that shot. If that bolt went out a whole bullet to maybe the 9 ring, just slide your aim point over and pull the trigger. More times than not, you're again what you see and what you trust, and getting that second shot off will hit that group. Now you've got two shots instead of one shot and one shot on the sighter. And now that condition is starting to get stagnant and it's starting to change. It's reversing or it's picking up. You're losing that window to where
Yes.
you have a consistent win condition to be able to finish your group. Don't go back down to the sighter. Trust what you see. Chase that shot. Well, guys, I think we've certainly addressed a lot of key things about when to start the group, different conditions, things to look out for. Certainly, learning to trust what you see. Any closing remarks, Harley? Jeff?
Now it's guys, just get confidence.
Mm-hmm.
Once you have that confidence, it means so much that I know to hold to the right. I know to hold down, and practice it, practice it, practice it. And
Yeah.
when you get a chance, you come to these matches when you're at your home range and you're shooting over one set of flags.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else has flags there. Most of the people at your practice ranges don't understand what we have. Come to these matches. It was amazing there at St. Louis or up at Camillus this year at the Nationals or Super Shoot, where you could look out and literally see, I don't know, a couple of hundred flags.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And
And
the
that's great
pattern,
information.
it's a vast importance. Just come to the matches, have a good time, meet a lot of us. We have no secrets. There's two secrets in this game: shoot a tuned rifle, shoot the best condition on the range. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
two. That's the two secrets.
Yeah. And it does take a lot of work. Practice You can always find an open bench when the weather and the winds are blowing.
Yes.
You know, avoid being out there at 7:30 in the morning when there's really very little wind moving. You're really not going to build your skill set in trigger pull type conditions. Force yourself when it is very windy, even though you get your butt kicked. The more you do that, the smaller the big groups get, and you'll start building confidence that, hey, I can do this. I've shot in wind in practice all the time. I know how to handle this. And while other people they're oh my gosh, the mirage or the wind, there's just no way I can shoot well. They're defeated before they get started. And it's all about putting the preparation and the work to really, learn how to shoot in the wind. Jeff, anything that you want to add?
Uh, no, just build your confidence. And another thing, if you're practicing, hopefully you can you've got a partner. A partner is a good thing to practice with.
Mm-hmm.
One maybe, for instance, maybe one day you go out practice and you felt like you haven't had a real good day or something. But if you'd had a partner, maybe he would, maybe he wasn't shooting good. And it wasn't really, you were actually having a good day. It was just a bad condition day.
Right.
So, it's, it's good to, shoot a partner like that and be aware of what's going on the range, the conditions
Yeah.
around you. You can always pick up something.
Yeah.
Try to learn something every time
Sure.
you go in for the bench. So
And if you are struggling during a match, find out who's winning, maybe the top three people that are shooting well, and follow that guy or gal that's shooting well. Look at the condition that they're shooting. That'll maybe get you back on track to
there
where
you go.
you,
Yeah,
you
just
know
stand
you're
there and
you're
watch.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's so
Yeah,
many
at
times.
these matches, there's
Right.
spotting scopes all over the place. It's at the bigger ones, especially. And as long as no one's at that spotting scope, no one cares. Just
Mhm.
step up behind it and watch what's going
Right. Yeah.
on.
Yeah, the cause and
Hmm.
effect and stuff. But try different conditions. Don't assume just because it looks soft that it's a good condition. Sometimes that can go both ways. It can be a poor condition if it's puffing and moving around, or it could be a very good condition if you get that red green kind of mishmash condition. Tails are barely touching the ground, so you don't have wind to move the bullet around. That could be very good. And then, a lot of people prefer to shoot in that harder blow. Try everything, expand your horizon of skill sets and by trying things instead of getting locked in that I just want to shoot when the flags are down on the ground and every flag is identical in its angle stuff. So, well, guys, appreciate your time again for this video. And everyone watching, we certainly appreciate the support, the amount of subscribers we have. We really appreciate all the feedback. And again, like us, subscribe, certainly comment, we'll respond. And we'll promise to, bring out more content of what you guys want to hear and what you got to learn about. We're here to help you. We want to help grow the sport. We want to help people have greater skill sets so they find more success. And, that drive home, that value proposition. Did I have a good time? Am I learning? And that's what brings you back. And, we're always here to help you. So, thanks everybody for your time.
Thank
And
you.
we will see you on our next video.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay. Take care. Thank you.